I told you I could turn Francis Maxwell into Michael Schurre, and look what you have here.
All it took was a bit of an accent.
So, Francis became Michael Schurre.
Francis became Michael Schurre. I see. I got you.
In another life, you had an accent.
Yeah, I did. I actually never did, even from New York. Yeah, well, I'm glad to be here. It's round 2 starting in the NHL playoffs.
I was telling you, what was I think I was saying about a couple days ago when you were in. I was saying it's like watching The Wire. Watching the NBA playoffs, it's exhausting. It's
the NHL one too.
The NHL, yes, the NHL playoffs. When you watch,
watching the NBA playoffs, I wouldn't know what that's like.
Oh, such a I'll be nice. But so, how many overtimes was there? 16 overtimes?
Yeah, they went into I mean, they had series that went 5 out of 6 games, and the Capitals and Maple Leafs went to overtime. I mean, there was a ton of overtime. The Wild and Blues went to overtime a lot. It's been that much fun. So it's been a good, there haven't been games, because it's the first round. There hasn't been a game 7.
I found that interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but I think we're going to see a little bit of that as we go to round 2.
Well, it's for one, it seems like, and I think I have the bracket, which I need to reference before I start speaking completely out of my A. I don't know much. I was very surprised the Predators swept the Blackhawks.
The Predators, first of all, beating the Blackhawks. Predators came in as a wild card. The Blackhawks had the best record in the Western Conference. Just beating them was something. Beating them in 4 straight. The next day, Stan Bowman, the GM of the Blackhawks, came out and said, we're going to make some changes. We're going to get rid of one of our assistant coaches. They're probably going to do a lot more than just that. The Blues looked amazing. They won 3 straight. Then they lost a game in Minnesota, came back, or lost a game at home, then came back and won. I think the Blues moving on to the Predators is going to be an interesting series because you have 2 of the best goalies right now. Pekka Rinne in Nashville had a .70 goals against. He had 2 shutouts of the Blackhawks in the first round. They scored 3 goals in 4 games, the Blackhawks did. And Jake Allen, who's now under the tutelage of Martin Brodeur since Mike Yeo took over as coach right there.
That's awesome.
1.47 goals against. So you're not going to see a ton of goal scoring in that series, which leads me to think that a lot of 1-goal games there is going to make for an exciting series. And there are players to watch there too. You have Stastny coming back for the Blues. He played the last game, but he's going to come back and play now. They need some scoring touch, and they're going to need it against a team that they're slower than and who has a better goaltender, it seems, in Pekka Rinne. So the Blues have their work cut out.
What's interesting, and please at any point correct me where I'm wrong here, but in some of the Stanley Cup runs of the past, I believe it was Tuukka Rask with the Bruins who got very hot, or became a brick wall for an extended period of time that led them to, or was part of the reason that led them. It was also a much different team. I even think Tyler Seguin was on that team.
Exactly,
a young Tyler Seguin. And then I feel like just being in LA, you hear about it all the time when Jonathan Quick is healthy and at the top of his game. And again, speaking of goalkeepers, you can't really say that without arguably one of the best, if not the best, in the NHL, and Henrik Lundqvist and your New York Rangers, who just got past the Canadiens, which is an interesting series always because even I know that those are 2 of the original 6 teams.
Right.
So there's a lot of history between the 2 of them, and there's a lot of hardware, I think, that have been raised between the 2 of them.
Well, but between one of them and then some
hardware. But if you
hardware.
combine them.
Right. It's like, Hank and Tommy Aaron have hit the most home runs of any brother combination in baseball history. So yeah, if you combine the Canadiens and the Rangers, that's a lot of Stanley Cups.
That's a lot of Stanley Cups.
No, it's a great rivalry, the Canadiens and Rangers. I love the Montreal Canadiens because I love that, it's like going to Green Bay for football when you're in Montreal. It's the show in town, and everybody talks about it. It's not an easy place to play for anybody in the NHL, and they've struggled now for a lot of years. Since '93, they haven't won the Cup. But when you look at the Rangers and how they're built, they have to do better than they did against Montreal. Henrik Lundqvist really took a lot of the baggage there, and like you said, as he goes, so go the Rangers, because they don't have that scoring punch. They saw Mazzuccarello kind of light up toward the end. They got some production out of Rick Nash, which they haven't traditionally in the playoffs, but they need guys like Chris Kreider and Derek Stepan to step up and start scoring. They need a little bit more from their blue line too. They're not getting the defense. They had Nick Holden in and out, and I think one of the great moves that Alain Vigneault did, the coach of the Rangers, was he put Pavel Buchnevich in there, the young kid. He could score. He pulled Tanner Glass, who did score earlier in the series. They're going to play against Ottawa, a very different team, right now. They're lower scoring. Craig Anderson, not as good as Henrik Lundqvist, but they're a team that has played together for a while. One of the matchups to watch there is Derek Brassard and Mika Zibanejad, who were traded for each other last July, and both are doing well for their teams.
I actually watched a decent amount of the Bruins versus Senators series, which every game also seemed to be going into overtime.
Right, of course.
And at one point, again, one wrong flick of the puck luck is definitely something that occurs.
Yeah.
And the Bruins were knocked out of the series, and that was, I believe, a closer seeded matchup. It wasn't.
It was, yeah. They were evenly matched. They definitely were evenly matched.
There's a defenseman for the Senators who was on the ice. It felt like the entire series.
Erik Karlsson. Yeah, Erik Karlsson, who I think is the top 3-4 player in the NHL. He
seemed to be everywhere.
A spectacularly good defenseman, and he also was playing with 2 hairline fractures in his left heel.
Very hockey.
Very hockey. And just to digress, a team that was eliminated, Joe Thornton for the San Jose Sharks. It turns out that he had partial tears in his MCL and ACL.
How do these guys? Is it because of the skates?
They played. No, because it's the playoffs.
Because they're insane.
Well, it's the playoffs. You got to play. I mean, that's.
That's true. Mike Griffin stubs his toe. They get hit in the face with a puck, and they're back.
Right.
The most famous I know is like Paul Correa.
Oh yeah.
I think died on the ice.
Died on the ice, got stitched up.
Was it off the floor on the board?
Yeah, I mean that's sort of the lore of hockey. That they're tough gentlemen. But the way that Ottawa has to work it is from their back line, and it's not just Karlsson, but they get more power from their back line than the Rangers do, and the Rangers can change that dynamic. They're 4 lines deep, but they're gonna have to do more than what they did against Montreal.
Rangers in 6 or 7 is my question.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. We've talked about a couple of these here. I can make predictions after, but let's look at the other.
Well, there's actually the one I wanted to get to, and I think in terms of marketability, the Penguins and the Capitals,
it's the best.
They met last year.
Yeah, they meet all the time.
Was that the first in the playoffs? They meet all the time.
It wasn't the first time. Yeah, they've met in the playoffs.
Because Crosby and Ovechkin, I thought they haven't played too much against each other.
No, they've played quite. Well, you're not very wrong. They played against each other. They have an old rivalry. They don't really like each other.
They're two of the best.
They're 2 of the best without question. Yes. One's a Canadian hero, one's a Russian hero in terms of hockey. And the thing about Ovechkin and Crosby is that they are the centerpieces of 2 really good teams. One that has won and one that hasn't.
And is trying to, the Capitals.
And is trying to. And the Capitals snuck by Toronto. It was probably good for them to have that happen. Ovechkin and Oshie, that line, a really good line, and they're able to get Kuznetsov on the ice later. That power play is strong. You have to see Braden Holtby in the goal. He didn't look great against Toronto. He's got to look better against Pittsburgh. He's going to see a lot more rubber against Pittsburgh. The Penguins just fly, and they get production because they spend so much time concentrating on Crosby and Malkin that they get production from guys like Brian Rust and Jake Gunsel, who had 5 goals in the first round. And Marc-Andre Fleury in there, who was an accidental starter. He was the backup goalie. Murray got hurt in warm-ups of Game 1. Fleury came in to start. Won the series. They're going to go with him, but he has probably a pretty short leash.
Fleury?
Before we go, and we'll
yes, of course. No, we have the Oilers.
We have the Oilers. A really exciting hockey team. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. I mean, these are
20 years old?
Yeah. I mean, he's just happened, and he has been an extraordinary player, scoring in the playoffs, setting things up. If you don't watch a lot of hockey, watch Connor McDavid. My dad, when he taught me how to watch hockey, sometimes you just isolate on one player on a shift, and you watch what they do away from the puck. And McDavid away from the puck is unbelievable. His positioning is amazing. It's what made Gretzky amazing. You can't, because they're both in Edmonton, you can talk about them in the same breath. But he's that exciting as a young hockey player, and I think it's really cool to watch him and how he works with the other pieces there.
So you got to pick the Rangers. We're not going to let you take the Senators.
I picked the Canadiens last time, and the Rangers won. I'm going to say Ottawa in 6.
Ottawa in 3.
Ottawa in 6 is what I'm going to say. Right. I'm going to say in that series, Ottawa in 6. I'm going to say, and nobody's agreeing with me, I'm going to say the Blues win in 7 games. I'm going to say the Ducks win in 5, and then I think the Capitals are going to win in 7. I think the goaltending problems are going to come into Pittsburgh. I think they're going to shoot a lot more than they did. The Capitals will shoot a lot more than they did against Toronto.
Seems like if they can get past the Penguins,
yeah,
they're going to win it all.
And it doesn't matter. It's hockey. It'll be great. And if I'm wrong, that's great because that means the Rangers win. Let's go Rangers.
Michael.
Jason.
No handshake.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying Michael, like you were lifting me up, anointing me or something. Jason, we could do the political handshake, right?